Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Within all the Warzone weapon categories right now, we've got a lot of different really good options, whether you're looking for the best pistol or the best sniper, the best LMG, rifle, SMG, so on and so forth. And so today I wanted to go through every single weapon category in the game and pick out the #1 best meta option and break down the best setup for it. So let's go ahead, let's jump right in. We're going to start with the pistol category here, then work our way through obviously all the primary ones. Admittedly, with just natural overkill this year, pistols don't really get all that much attention. If you were going to use one though, I would definitely go for the Core 45 conversion kit. This thing actually has a pretty ridiculous TTK. It's not the easiest weapon to use, but in the close range you can actually get some surprisingly fast knocks if you are accurate with this and can kind of train your muscle memory to work well with this. It does take some time to master, but once you do so, it's really good. So initially here, the main component that you want to be using is this conversion kit. It basically is like a binary trigger. So it fires once when you click your trigger, then fires again when you unclick it. So it's almost like it's a 2-round burst, and that really does crazy things for that TTK. At the same time though, makes it a lot more difficult to control when you are spamming it back to back to back. But if you can do so semi-accurately, you will fry, as mentioned. So we got that on there. Because we do burn through ammo, I go for the 30-round mag. You could even upgrade to 40 if you really wanted to, just dependent on how fast you want the weapon to be there. I don't love the irons, especially when I'm spamming the conversion kit, so I go for the basic elo sight on the MK3 reflector. The KR-HX15 laser sight is basically just the best for sprint to fire and ADS speed, so it's still snappy and aggressive. Then I go for the sonic suppressor on here as well. Extends that range a little bit, so you get an even faster TTK out to a further range and helps someone with the velo in case you're fighting at some longer distances with a pistol. It can just help out here and there a little bit and doesn't really hurt the gun all that much. So definitely a unique pistol setup, but if you were gonna go for one, this is the absolute #1 choice. Now for snipers, this one's a little bit trickier now, which is at least nice to see, because in the previous seasons it was not a conversation whatsoever. It just always was the cat. I am still leaning the cat right now, just because this is still the only true one-shot sniper at any range. Obviously the stalker is very good now, we've been talking about it a lot recently, but you can only get that one-shot range out to like 80 meters, which doesn't really make it viable for anything outside of Resurgence gameplay. It's solid, it's fun, it's fast, but the cat truly can one-shot at 20 meters, at 80 meters, at 180 meters if you needed it to. So in terms of overall sniping, I still would say the cat is the #1 go-to here. So really what we're focused on is extending that velocity without killing our ADS too much. So I do go for the Nightfall suppressor here. 15% to the velocity is pretty decent. I go for the Zang barrel, 10% to the velocity there. And then I go for high velocity ammo, 20% to the velocity there. So we're just up barely over 1,000, which is really good for long range sniping out past 100 plus meters. You won't have to account for too much bullet drop there. It'll be easy to get those one-shot knocks. I also go for the tactical pad stock. This does speed up that ADS speed a lot, since we've obviously gone down and knocked that off a decent amount with the barrel, and then obviously the muzzle. And then just behind the face cam, I've got the quick bolt on there. This just allows me to get my shots off faster back to back to back. So if you do get that knock, you can get that quick cleanup. If you do get an armor break because you didn't hit a headshot, you can get that quick second shot off and get that knock and then clean it up as well. So sniping is a little bit more competitive here, but the cat is still just so dominant. For marksman rifles, I gotta go the MCW 6.8. For the most part, this is a relatively competitive category, honestly. Like, the LMS is crazy, the interceptor's still not awful, the enforcer's pretty good, but the MCW 6.8 has a fast fire rate, so you can spam this thing. It has really the best in class magazine capacity with a 60-round drum, and its TTK over all distances is phenomenal. So to me, it's a pretty clear #1 choice, while the remainder of the category is still remotely competitive, I would say. So initially here I am going for the Spirit Fire suppressor. Helps out with that range a little bit, that velocity a little bit, and that control. So a perfect 3-in-1 combo for a mid to long range based weapon. Rune heavy support grip is super important here, more so than on other weapons, because this is semi-auto, so it's going to help out a ton with that stability and idle sway, making this way more accurate as you are consistently spamming shots back to back to back. Then of course it does also help out with the general recoil control as well as you're spamming. So in general, it just makes it so much easier to use. That's a very clutch attachment. As mentioned, the 60-round drum, this is not something you get with a lot of the other marksmans. They're capped out at like 20, so having 3 times more sniper ammo to deal with is crazy valuable, right? We got the 2.5 times eagle eye optic on here per usual. That's my choice for the mid to long range. As always with optics, if there's one you prefer more, always go for comfortability there. Then lastly, I go for the assault stock. This helps out with just general recoil control, so makes the gun a little bit easier and a bit more predictable. It is a bit higher of a skill gap weapon just because it is semi-auto. You got to be deadly accurate with it, but if you can be decently accurate, you're gonna fry. It's a really solid choice. Now, the LMG category is tough to say there's one definitive best option. You know, previously the Pulemiot was up there, but it's nerfed to the conversion kit, kind of knocked that out of the running. The Holger is right there, the DG58 is right there, the Eradicator and even the Evolver are pretty close, but for me, it's got to be the Bruin. Just based on the stats here, its aggressiveness as an LMG when you run the 60 round mag is crazy good. It's an AR LMG hybrid. It's incredibly easy to use in terms of control, and then its TTK over range just is the most competitive that there is, basically in the early you know, first damage ranges, and then over its longer range as well. This thing just does ultimately fry. So I gotta have this as my number one, but this might be the second most competitive category in the game, in all honesty. Initially, again, here I got the 2.5 times Eagle Eye. As mentioned, I am running that 60 round mag to really turn this into more of an assault rifle rather than an LMG, but a lot of the other LMGs also have 60 round mags by default. This one's just an attachment in this case. Got the Bruin heavy support on here, obviously, again, making that pattern a lot more predictable there. Spirit fire suppressor, range, velocity, and control. And then I go for the Horizon barrel if I'm playing on Urzikstan or Big Map BR, obviously. This helps out with the control, so you're just more accurate. If I was playing Resurgence, though, I'd probably go for the Ferocity barrel instead. It helps out the range of velocity, no added control there, just because in those style of fights in 50, 60, 70 meters, not always super necessary, because like I said, this is already a pretty easy to use weapon in general, so definitely gets the job done just fine. And regardless of how you want to build it out, there's a lot of good options. By the way, as we are going through all the categories here today, if you enjoy the video or if you find it helpful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. It's always really appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, or if you simply have not subscribed yet, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD. So if you always want to stay up to date, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up, we got the shotguns. Admittedly, I don't like using shotguns. I don't really like talking about shotguns in videos. I don't like to promote them all that much. As of right now, though, this category is kind of in a weird spot because they have done some pretty significant nerfs to a lot of the main options recently. I'm still going with the Lockwood 680, though. I've seen a lot of people using this in ranked, obviously, since you can't use some of the other options, and it gets the job done despite the fact that it was nerfed pretty decently with Season 2 not long ago. So initially here, I've got the sawed-off mod, just goes crazy for mobility and makes it a lot more aggressive. I am using the Kimura laser. It's bright, it's visible, but it's also giving you a crazy good ADS speed and sprint to fire. If you want like a slightly less visible one, 7 milliwatts a good choice too, but it's not doing as much for your ADS and sprint to fire, so just keep that in mind. This obviously is an ADS based build. I do go for the DR6 hand stop here, does a ton for your mobility again as well. The Bryson choke's gonna help out that tighter pellet spread, make it more accurate. And then for the barrel, you really got two options. Now, the Defender heavy barrel, they did just nerf. If you're using this, your sprint to fire is gonna be a lot slower. However, if you're using this in close range and not sprinting and like sliding instead, it's not going to be a huge effect, you know, on your overall movement there. If you're sprinting a ton, you'll probably notice it. So just keep that in mind, if, you know, based on how you play the game with shotties. Other than that, though, honestly, the Hammerforged Long is a decent choice as well. It's going to extend that range and that velo out a little bit, so that'll help out with some potential, you know, 2 to 3 shot knocks as well. Either or, there just depends. Do you want, you know, slightly less damage for better mobility, or are you okay with that slower sprint to fire for really good damage out of the heavy long? So just, you know, pick your poison there when it comes down to it. Regardless, the 680, like I said, would probably be my number one choice here. A close second would be the broadside, but as of right now, it's just not doing it for me. Now, the SMG category is by far the most competitive category in the game, to the point where there's quite literally 3 options that you could say are the true best SMG, and you could be correct about all 3 of them at the same time. That being the AMR9, the HRM9, and also the new RAM9. 9mm subs are going crazy. To me, though, the most balanced of the 3 is the HMR9. While the RAM9 has a crazy TTK if you get one headshot, its sprint to fire is a little bit slow for an SMG. The AMR9 has a crazy damage range and crazy fast TTK, but again, really slow sprint to fire. The HMR9 has a fast sprint to fire, a fast ADS, just good general movement across the board, really competitive TTK, and a great damage range as well. So this is like checking all the right boxes without leaving something unchecked elsewhere, like maybe the RAM9 or the AMR9 might be doing instead. So for me, initially here, I'm going for the ZEM35 compensator. I love this thing. It's so good for control. Keeps you off the map a little bit faster because it has shorter radar pings, and helps out with firing aim stability. So clutch attachment there. Princeps long barrel for that better range velocity. 16 meters for that first damage range is really good for an SMG that's got this fast of mobility at the same time. 50 round drum, your basic extended mag here. I go for the assault rear grip. This is essentially free control with the fights that we're in. Hurting that aiming idle sway is not going to be the end of the world. And then lastly here, I've got no stock. This does do a lot of cons for your control. It bounces around a little bit, but in the close range, you can actually manage that pretty well. And it obviously boosts your mobility up a ton. That said, light stock is not a bad idea either. It's a little bit slower, but it's also way easier to use. So depending on your level of comfortability with the gun, either or is going to work well here. For me though, no stock. I love that ability to just fly and fry. But yeah, it is really hard to say definitively, hey, this is the #1 SMG. This is just my preference of the three, but you can make an argument for all three, as I mentioned. Now for battle rifles, again, it's pretty competitive. The Bass B is up there, but for me, it's the MTZ-762. This thing fries in the close range, the mid range, the long range. It is limited by its ammo, much like a lot of the battle rifles or marksman style rifles in this game, but it has such crazy damage that you can be super effective with 30 rounds on there. So it's kind of a nice trade-off there. And I feel like it balances out the gun pretty well. But if you're accurate with this thing, it's going to be tough to outgun. Initially, here I am going for the 2.5 times Eagle Eye Optic. There's also some iron sight builds that we've covered previously that are really fun, like specifically for Resurgence. This one's a little bit more well-rounded for all styles of gameplay, though. As mentioned, that 30-round mag is a must-have. Not much ammo, but it gets the job done with the damage here. Ruin heavy support, making this weapon super easy and super predictable in terms of that recoil pattern and control. I do go for the Spirit Fire Suppressor. This doesn't have like crazy bad recoil control by any means, but obviously anytime you can boost up the range, the velocity, and the control, it's nice to do so. And then lastly, for the barrel, you got two options, and it really just comes down to how good of a player you are. Clinch Pro is going to make you more accurate. It's obviously got the range, the velocity, and the control all doing decent benefits there, and that's a great choice. If you want a laser beam like MTZ-762, run this. Now, if you're a good player, you can control recoil very well. Upgrade to the Blackthorn. This gives you way better velocity and range, just no added control, so it might be a little bit more tricky to use, but also you can be way more effective over all ranges there because of those benefits. But really, either barrel here, there's no wrong answer. Both are really strong and are going to enhance this build in one way or another. Just depends on your level of comfortability. Either way, this thing is really good. Then lastly here for the rifles, I've got the BP-50, our brand new Season 2 assault rifle. This thing is so easy to use. It is consistent in the close range, the mid range, the long range. It just is, again, checking all the right boxes. Now, the RAM is right there because it's got crazy good close and mid range. The SVA is right there because it's so easy to use and has really a reliable damage across the board. But for me, the BP-50 is kind of the best of both worlds. It's super aggressive, super easy to use, and has that great damage in TTK as well. So initially here, I'm going for the Spirit Fire Suppressor. Yet again, range, velocity, and control. I go for the Lower 9 heavy barrel, range, velocity, and control. It's only got a 45 round mag, which does kind of burn through ammo because the fire rate's pretty fast here. If this had a 60, it'd be so crazy good. But this is nice to see, I guess, in terms of like a balance and a competitive standpoint there. The reflector sight's really good here because it is so low recoil. You can actually fry with this over range, but also if you wanted to, the Coriel Eagle Eye 2.5 times is a great choice as well, obviously for mid to long range. Just depends on where you're fighting most of your fights there, I guess. And then also we got the Moat 40 stock. It's going to protect your castle, but then also give you some better control, then some better mobility at the same time. So it's nice to kind of get the best of both worlds there. I love the feel of this thing. It's a ton of fun to use. It is a do-it-all rifle, and it feels fresh as well, since obviously it's brand new here in Season 2. And that being said, those are the best meta loadouts and meta weapons in every single category here in Warzone at the moment. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee that every single day you are up to date with all things going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.